You ever wonder why you're still single? Even though you've got your life together, you're doing fine on your own, and you've built this version of yourself that doesn't need anyone. Well, science might have something to say about that. And no, it's not because you're not attractive enough or not putting yourself out there. In fact, it's the opposite. You might be too independent for your own love life. So today, we're diving into the psychology behind independence and how being too self-reliant could actually be pushing people away. We are going to unpack studies, real-life experiences, and even evolutionary science to figure out why independence, while being one of your biggest strengths, could also be your biggest block when it comes to finding love. Let's be honest, society rewards independence. We're constantly told to boss up, focus on yourself, don't rely on anybody. And that's great advice when you're trying to build your career or heal from toxic relationships. But here's the thing, the brain and heart don't always speak the same language. While your logical side might be thriving on solitude and productivity, your emotional side, your need for connection might be starving. There's this concept in psychology called attachment theory. You've probably heard of it. It's basically the idea that the way we attach to people as adults is heavily influenced by how we were raised, especially in our early relationships with caregivers. Now, people who are hyper-independent often fall into what's called an avoidant attachment style. These are the people who don't feel safe depending on others, so they build a life where they don't have to. What is crazy is that a lot of this avoidance is actually a defense mechanism. You get so used to doing things on your own, solving problems, keeping your emotions in check, not needing anyone, that you start to believe that needing someone is weak. But science says the opposite. Humans are biologically wired to connect. Like, our nervous systems literally calm down in the presence of people we trust. That is not weakness, that's just how we are built. Let's talk hormones for a second. Because your body's doing things you might not even be aware of. When you get close to someone emotionally or physically, your body releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. This stuff is powerful. It makes you feel connected, relaxed, safe. But if you've trained yourself to keep people at arm's length, you're not giving your body that opportunity to connect. And over time, your baseline becomes isolation, even if deep down, that's not what you really want. Now here's where it gets tricky. Independent people often attract people who admire that strength. They might think, wow, you've got your life together, you're so focused, so self-sufficient. But over time, that admiration can turn into distance, because relationships thrive on vulnerability. If you're not letting someone see your soft side, your insecurities, your bad days, your real emotions, then they're never truly connecting with the real you. And that's where loneliness creeps in. It's also worth looking at how your independence affects the way you communicate in relationships. Do you ask for help? Do you share your problems? Or do you bottle everything up because you don't want to be a burden? Studies have shown that people who share emotional labor in relationships, who talk about their feelings, who ask for support, actually have stronger, more stable partnerships. So if you're always the one saying, I'm fine, even when you're not, you might be robbing the relationship of its chance to deepen. But let's not twist this into a negative message. Being independent is a superpower. Seriously, the goal here isn't to tell you to stop being strong or to suddenly become needy. It's about balance. It's about recognizing that love isn't about dependence. It's about interdependence. That sweet spot where you can be your full self but still let someone in. There's this quote I love, don't be so independent that you forget how to be loved. And I think that hits, because a lot of people out here aren't single because they're unlovable. They're single because they've armored themselves so tightly, no one can get close enough to love them. So how do you shift that? How do you stay strong but still open the door to connection? Start small. Practice receiving. Let someone do something nice for you without feeling the need to immediately reciprocate. Open up a little when something's bothering you, even if you feel like you could handle it on your own. Being vulnerable doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. You might be surprised what happens when you stop seeing independence as a wall and start seeing it as a foundation. A strong foundation is great, but a house needs doors and windows too, otherwise no one gets in. Let's also not forget, science supports this too. Studies show that people in healthy, secure relationships tend to live longer, manage stress better, and have stronger immune systems. We're literally built for connection. And yeah, You could do life on your own, but should you? That's the real question. So next time you catch yourself saying, I don't need anyone, ask yourself if that's strength or fear talking. Because science says you might be single, not because there's something wrong with you, but because you've convinced yourself that needing love is a weakness, and it's not. Now, let's take this a step further and talk about where this hyper-independence actually comes from. Because trust me, people don't just wake up one day and say, I'm gonna do life alone. That kind of mindset is usually shaped by life experience. For some, it starts in childhood. Maybe you were that kid who had to grow up fast, who couldn't rely on adults, who had to manage emotions on your own because no one around you really understood or validated what you were going through. That kind of environment teaches you early on that needing people equals disappointment. So you adapt, you become the fixer, the strong one, the I got it person. And that identity becomes so deeply ingrained that even when people do come along who want to support you, you don't know how to receive it. You brush it off, downplay your needs, keep them at a distance, because your brain is literally wired to protect you from being let down again. It's kind of tragic when you think about it, because the very thing you did to survive, your independence, might now be the thing keeping you from thriving emotionally. Let's bring in some science here. Neuroscientists have found that emotional memories, especially painful ones, get encoded in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. So every time you try to get close to someone and feel a flicker of vulnerability, your brain might sound an alarm. Danger, don't do it, you've been here before. Even if the person you're with now is nothing like the one who hurt you before, your brain doesn't know the difference. It's scanning for patterns, not details. This is where things like therapy, mindfulness, or even journaling can help rewire those patterns. Because the truth is, emotional independence is different from emotional avoidance. One is about strength, the other is about fear, and too often we confuse the two. Now let's talk about relationships. A lot of independent people will date, but only up to a point. Once things get too close, too real, too vulnerable, that's when the walls go up. You might ghost someone who actually treated you well, or you might self-sabotage by picking fights or withdrawing just when things were going good. It's not because you don't want love, it's because love feels dangerous. Not because it is, but because for you, it represents a loss of control. That's something a lot of people won't admit to. Control. Independence often becomes a form of control. If I don't depend on anyone, I can't get hurt. If I don't rely on love, I won't be disappointed. It makes perfect sense. But that control comes at a cost. Deep loneliness. Now you might be thinking, I'm fine on my own. I like being alone. And that's valid. Alone time is healthy, and some people are naturally more introverted. But here's what research shows. Even introverts, even the most solitude-loving people, still need meaningful connection to feel fulfilled. Not constant attention, not clingy romance, just genuine emotional bonds with people who see them, understand them, and accept them. Let's shift gears and talk about modern dating. Because independence has become the new attractive trait, right? Especially on social media, everyone's unbothered, in their bag, focusing on themselves. And while there's value in that, there's also a kind of performative loneliness happening. People pretend they don't need love, but deep down, they crave it. It's become trendy to act like emotions are a weakness. But here's the truth. Love is not a distraction. The right love is actually a powerful form of motivation, healing, and stability. Think about how different your life could be if you let yourself trust someone fully. If you allowed space for interdependence, not codependence, not control, but that middle space where two strong people show up for each other without fear, that's where the magic happens. And let's not forget, science also says your health improves in secure relationships. Your cortisol levels drop, your sleep gets better, your blood pressure lowers, your brain literally functions better when you feel loved and safe. So when we talk about independence, we need to start asking, are we talking about freedom? Or are we talking about fear dressed up as freedom? One of the hardest things for independent people to do is admit they're lonely, because loneliness sounds like weakness, but it's not. It's a natural human signal that says, hey, I need connection. Ignoring that signal is like ignoring hunger or thirst. It catches up with you eventually. So, if any of this hit home for you, here's what I want you to take away. Your independence is beautiful, it's powerful, it got you here, but it's okay to outgrow survival mode. You don't have to carry everything alone. You don't have to wear your self-sufficiency like armor 24/7. Let people in, slowly, intentionally, wisely. Not everyone deserves your vulnerability, but someone will, and they won't see your independence as a wall to climb. They'll see it as a fortress they're honored to be invited into. Because at the end of the day, science says you are single, not because something's wrong with you, but because you've been protecting yourself. And now, maybe, it's time to love yourself enough to unlearn that protection and open up to something more.